Hey everyone, welcome back to World of Tanks once again. Today we are watching a player by the name of Miney Tank WoT. We're just going to call him Miney for short because that's a mouthful. And he is playing the Tier 10 Chinese tank destroyer, and it is the WZ-113G FT, which is also a little bit of a mouthful. And watch what happens here right off the bat. He's going to load a high explosive round here because he's looking at that bat jet 25 TAP in the middle of the field, and he's going to take that shot. And spoiler alert, that was actually a connecting shot. Looking at it in the after battle report, that was a high explosive penetration for 1,129 damage, and you wouldn't even know it for sure. He didn't know it for sure. Maybe he had his suspicions. Maybe he was watching that shell fly and saw that it didn't hit, or that he didn't see it impact the ground, indicating that it was a hit. But that's a very nice high roll for a high explosive round as well on this 750 average damage gun with the standard armor piercing rounds, of course. So what is next? Well, we have an E75 that's going to give them their side. So right away, there's already about 2,000 damage done in this battle. Very impressive, and we're barely a minute into it. So Miney here is going to have to play it a little bit smart here on this map, as you normally would. However, when you have an E75 that is eager to trade hit points with you, and it looks like that E75 doesn't even have the top gun based on how much damage that last shot just did, well, then maybe you don't have to be as careful. And can he get that last shot in and finish off that E75? There's a possibility there. I think he's looking at where that shot may have penetrated him previously, but now that E75 is definitely not a threat. So Miney here is going to just kind of keep an eye out over to his right there, where he just looked a moment ago, and see if he can line up any shots. He's planning on where his next victim is going to be. What is he going to do now? Should he just sit here and wait? I mean, it's hard to push up when there's so many enemy vehicles not too far beyond where he's looking right now, right around that corner. It looks like there's probably a 60 TP hiding over there. There's a Leo over there not far away. Maybe there's a Centurion and a couple other vehicles. So really got to be careful. He keeps looking back at that corner, expecting that maybe something will poke around there. That is a very real possibility, but he's got to be a little bit careful here, just that he doesn't get caught out and take, for example, a big 750 damage shot from that 60 TP if he decides to be aggressive, which is absolutely a possibility. This vehicle here, it has a little bit of armor, not a lot of armor. Most of the line, being the tier 8 and 9 especially, are very similar vehicles. I found that their guns on this line are quite good, very nice to play, very well behaved guns, but just overall the rest of the tank is not that great, and we'll get back into that in a minute. But first, we're gonna have to take away 800 hit points from that 752, and just like I was worried about, that 60 TP poked around the corner, but a combination of that 60 TP's armor piercing capabilities not being the greatest, and the fact that Miney here put his track in the way kind of saved him a few hit points. And that Minotauro is going to try to trade with this WZ now, but it's not the greatest trade for the Minotauro if he's going to trade one shot for another. And you can see here Miney is not too afraid of that. He's just accepted that he's going to take a hit from that Minotauro and decided that, you know what, after I do that though, I'm going to get that kill, no problem. In the meantime, that 60 TP on the enemy team has used this opportunity, with Miney being pushed back a little bit, to maybe get a shot on some of the other teammates of Miney's. And Miney is now thinking, okay, what do I do next here? I'm getting wedged between the bunker and the wall. I can't get out of there. When Austin Powers it there. If you know that reference, you know it. If you don't, you don't. But what is he going to do next? Well, he's going to take a minute and think about it. In the meantime, let's talk about what these vehicles are. So I'm going to compare this one to what I featured a few battles ago, which is the Ranked Battles Reward vehicle, the 114 SP2. So in this WZ, I find its armor is meh. Most of the shots that are going to bounce off the front of it tend to hit that gun mantlet or the area around there. That's the only place that is really, you know, a notable amount of armor, good angle, spaced armor, all that stuff. The rest of it, the armor isn't really enough to rely on. You'll get the odd weird bounce, but that's about it. But the gun on this thing, I find, okay, disclaimer, I haven't played the tier 10, but on the tier 8 and tier 9 that I'm going to kind of directly compare, the guns are pretty quick to reload for what they are. They're pretty well, got pretty good accuracy, and I find even the lower alpha guns, the more stock guns on some of these vehicles, for example, the stock gun on the tier 9 with that lower alpha is not too bad of a gun either. Honestly, I've considered almost keeping it over the 750 alpha, but it's probably not the best decision. But what else this vehicle has, since it doesn't have that great of armor, it's just, I don't know, slow and vulnerable, doesn't have a turret. So comparing it to the 114 SP2, I think the 114 SP2 has that advantage again, but then again, it is a ranked reward vehicle, so I would expect it to be slightly better, not overpowered, but maybe slightly better than your standard tech tree vehicle. And I think that it fits that slot very well. And I don't think the WZ is terrible by any means here, and because it can do things like this for starters, hit that shot without even a worry that it was going to miss, really, and make that Centurion Action X kind of go out. That hurt. Well, now the Centurion's waiting for the WZ to. He probably thought the WZ wouldn't be able to aim a shot or reload that quickly and wasn't ready for it, and that cost him his life. And the Centurion actually hit that spaced armor, or the gun mantlet area around the front of Mini's tank there. So again, kind of showing off what this tank can be, but I can't expect it, honestly, to be that all the time, which makes it really difficult for me to decide if I want to buy the tier 10. I haven't bought the tier 10. I've been slowly working towards it for a couple years now, to be honest. That's how unmotivated I am to get it. And ooh, that Grill 15 just managed to sneak out of there. He drove across the open there just as Miney decided to look away, giving Miney no chance to aim a shot and fire at that Grill 15, which is rather unfortunate. But perhaps, Grill, we will meet again. Now, in the meantime, Miney's trying to get around that dead Minotauro, and it's not working out too well. So over top of the rubble he goes. You can actually drive up on top of that rubble fairly easily if you didn't know that. And I've done that a few times just to try to get almost hull-down shots on enemy vehicles that are near the center. And what is this? Okay, the 121, not the greatest trade for the 121. The 121 is now ceased to exist. However, it managed to do a pretty good amount of damage there to Miney, and Miney is now potentially a one-shot kill for a lot of these vehicles, pretty much all the vehicles remaining in this battle. So he needs to be a little bit careful. And you can see Miney here has actually loaded a high explosive round for this Grill 15. He is thinking ahead of time. He's always using intuition to his advantage, and he is always planning ahead as to which round he thinks he should fire next. So will this Grill 15 get respotted and allow him to put that shot in there, or will one of the other enemy vehicles make themselves seen first and perhaps apply some pressure to Miney? Let's find out. So, well, now Miney is backing up out of there, so you're going to think, okay, the Grill 15, maybe not in play right now. Miney's thinking the same thing. He's moving back to his standard rounds, and hello, 60 TP. Luckily, the 60 TP missed, because he could not have survived a hit from that, and now it's going to be a race to see who can reload first, the WZ or the 60 TP. My guess is going to be Miney here, and Miney looks like he's thinking the same thing. That's just one thing that tank destroyers like this tend to have an advantage over a heavy with a similar gun. And as I mentioned in the previous video as well, usually turreted vehicles have, in some aspects, worse performance than the non-turreted ones when it comes to things like reload time. And even though Miney reloaded that high explosive round for the Grill there, it didn't work out. And the Grill was murdered before Miney had a chance. And that artillery was trying to do some murdering as well. But hey, T95, I hear you have lots of armor, but I hear it's not on the rear. Did you see how little time Miney took there to aim a shot at the T95? Now he just drove away from it like, yeah, cool guys don't look at explosions. I'm not even going to be bothered with you. You're no longer a threat. You're going to die. I'm not going to bother. And look at this shot. How did that hit? The gun on this thing, perhaps a couple of those shots were a little bit on the lucky side, and I can't expect it to work out every time, but those shots, there's a lot of 750 alpha guns that you would not have even bothered to try those shots with, in my opinion. And now it's just the remaining artillery in this battle. Miney has managed to do 8,600 damage that we know of, plus that 1,100 damage from earlier on that bat chat at the beginning of the battle. That was also a pretty incredible shot. And now putting that over 9,000, so they're now easily over 10,000, including that blind shot. That was a very impressive match. Not a whole lot of crazy stuff happened, but it was one of those battles where you find yourself firing your gun a lot, just consistently being there, doing damage, and the end result is pretty spectacular. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll talk to you next time.